Folks, welcome to a very sad episode of So Bad It's Good. That is because today, me and my co-host, Carsten Bergie Bergersen, we are recapping the final episode of season 3 of The Traitors. And I am just emotionally coming to terms with all of this. Bergie, how are you today?
You know, I'm doing pretty good, even though it's our last episode. But I know that this Traitors is going to be like the next thing of like Survivor, Big Brother. Like it's going to be like a long running series that could be like Survivor celebrating 50 seasons. You know, I don't think Traitors is going anywhere, and that makes me excited. And I'm like, who are they going to cast for season 4? Because now I'm like excited to see the cast released for season 4.
I'm glad you started here because I was wanting to ask you, have you heard any rumors? Because I imagine they have cast, if not come close to casting for season 4 already. Are you hearing anything out there?
I haven't heard anything, but the funny thing is Carolyn followed me last year while the season was going. I'm like, oh, that's weird. Like a Survivor person following me. And this is like January as the season. And I've had a couple people follow me where I'm like, oh, that's a unique one.
Okay, who followed? Okay, cool. Give us an example. Who followed you?
Well, I won't say. I don't actually want to say anything, but I think there's also season 6 Islanders that have posted a TikTok of them watching in the background. There's like trailers.
You're talking Love Island. Love
Island. Love Island. Because like at first they weren't following me. After Love Island, like season 6, I followed them, and then they never followed me back until like a month ago, and I was like, why are you following me now? Like I was on season 5. You're not watching season 5 of Love Island right now. So I'm like, oh, they're watching Traitors right now, and they just saw that I was on. So
and just to remind people that are coming to this show or this recap late in the game, we've been doing this whole season, but Bergie was on Love Island USA season 5, then was picked to do the Traitors season 2. So Love Island is his kind of forte of how he came to reality television. And I was going over the Love Island USA cast from season 6, and I was trying to think of who I think would be interesting. Now, I believe I heard a rumor back in the day that Rob had been asked, and Rob said no. Now, who knows but if that's true or not, but if he had even been inquired to see if he was interested, that means they do this casting so far in advance. So my speculation is this cast is already pretty close to lock down for season 4.
Yeah, I think they know kind of their cast by like January. It would be my guess. Yeah. For me, like season 2, I don't know what their idea was, but they literally asked me like 2 weeks before the show started filming because I just got done with Love Island. They're like, yeah, I think I was one of the last players selected for Traitors, which is pretty cool too. Because everything that I had, I think I was like player 22, and there's 22 players that season. So like everything that I got handed to was player 22 or something like that. So that was pretty cool.
I mean, so the thing is, too, and just to remind people, there are so many different iterations of the Traitors. We have the celebrity version of the Traitors. And I feel like it is so special in its own way. So you can complain about the gameplay, which I understand is at times very weak, but you also have to understand there is a whole nother entertainment piece of value that is added by casting all of these different players. I mean, like I was thinking, I said this multiple times this week, I think I have to watch Big Brother now. Like after talking to Britney, watching Danielle, watching Derrick, it has gotten me excited about participating in a Big Brother season. And I think that's why this show is so powerful, because they pull from so many different iterations of reality television. And, you know, the Traitors UK, I think is brilliant, even though I have not watched the new season yet. I think it landed on Peacock finally. But that's different because it's not celebrities.
Yeah, and I agree with you too. And I think if Peacock had the money, well, they definitely have the money. They could definitely probably pull a, Traitors regular citizen cast or whatever you call it, normal people cast. But the thing with that is the talking heads won't be as high of quality. Like there are so many good storytellers that on the season that are underappreciated during their talking heads. But at the same time too, you need to hire just as good as editors, because like who knows how long these editors are working on the season before like the show comes out. Like you can't have them work on 2 shows because you want the best quality. So you don't want to you know what I'm trying to say? Like you want to overdo those editors. So you have to hire another editor that's just as good as your number one editor.
Well, I mean, the thing I think that sets Traitors apart is, we've talked about this before, just production value. Episode after episode, it's obviously the cast is great, but you have to give a special shout out to the editors that, just on the pauses, there are so many pauses in the show, and then the score, the composing of the show, like it leads you into all of these different directions. And yes, when you're pulling from different reality shows, you get some of the best talking heads you're ever going to get because they're used to talking to the cameras. And I think that's where housewives really step up. My only complaint about talking heads, and we kind of mentioned this last week, and we were talking about it, examples of Dolores and maybe Britney. If you're in a talking head, I want that to be completely honest. Like we were saying, does Dolores have some secret plan of just voting Tom every time because she's trying to throw the traitors off? We now realize that's not the case, but people were like, no, she's like doing a master plan. Now, I do believe still Britney was fudging in some of her talking heads because I believe now, after watching her the last 2 episodes and the reunion, she had a very clear strategy, and it's really exciting and refreshing to see that side of Danielle, where you can see she had a very clear way of playing the game. When at first it just seemed like she was such a mess and so flustered, and then you really start to see the confidence come out in those last 2 episodes and the reunion.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. And I think a lot of people are talking about like how good Dylan played and how good. I think the person that was underestimated the most was Gabby. I think Gabby played the best game this season. That's my opinion.
I totally agree with you. But also, do you ever have those questions in your mind? Is obviously she played this amazing game, but here's where editing comes into play as well, is that they edited it to really kind of like not use her as much in the beginning. They did this with Britney as well, and then really show how good they are by the end. And my thing is, were they always this good, or were they holding back their game? Because I always just wonder, and I'm not saying the editors are trying to trick us, but that is such an effective tool to keep the audience guessing. And there is so much footage. And now we've talked to Carolyn, we've talked to Britney, I talked to Wells earlier in this season, and there is so much we don't see. And I'm not saying that as a complaint, or I know it's only an hour show, but it is wild to know about how many things happened that we never get to see.
Yeah, I would say Gabby and Britney, that's probably a strategy, because if you think of Sandra's strategy, don't rock the boat. If you rock the boat, you're going to find your way out. So I think that was definitely Gabby's strategy, because you think about, she knew all this stuff on Danielle, but she never shared it until the very end. Because like you think about Jeremy, he was like telling everybody, I think Danielle's a traitor. He ends up in the coffin, he's gone. So like for Gabby to keep all of that information to herself until the very end and then go for the kill, that's the way to play Traitors. And I realized that the first time I played, but then I was like, I was so worried that I was going to get killed at some point because everybody knew I was a faithful. I was like, I want to go out because the traitors have to kill me because they know I'm coming after them. And I want to have my TV time too. I was like, look at me, I survived the field and everything. But like, if you want to win the traitors, you stay quiet until the very end and then go for the kill. You can't do it too early because
the Lord, like Ivar successfully had this happened. Like, Ivar, he spoke very rarely according to the edit. He made a lot of tea. He was made fun of. And by the way, this is all spoilers, you guys, at this point. He ends up winning. So let's go with this, is that we have 4 winners at the very end. And I will say, Britney, I was thinking about, I interviewed her last week or 2 weeks ago, and she even said this during the interview. Somebody pointed it out to me, and I don't think I caught it in the moment. She said something like, oh, Ivar doesn't win. And she goes, oops, I'm not supposed to say that. So even then, Britney was like misdirecting even me, which I thought was brilliant in a sense. But we had 4 winners: Dolores, Ivar, Gabby, and Dylan. Now, Gabby and Dylan, those were the ones that I think we said last week that I want to win. Ivar and Dolores. And I want to really tell people, because people seem to get really upset at when people have opinions. Dolores, it's like, I love her so much on Real Housewives of New Jersey. I don't think she deserves to be standing in that winner's circle. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, she just played the correct game to make it to the end, which is have absolutely no idea what's going on, and the traitors aren't going to kill you. Same, like we can make the same argument for MJ last year, and like she ended up getting banished because she still couldn't figure out like I've talked to Chrishell, because Chrishell is like one of my friends from season
2. I love
2.
Chrishell. Yeah.
Yeah. And she told MJ, like, I'm gunning for CT at this fireman ceremony, so you need to help me banish CT. What does MJ do? Who did she vote for? No, who did she vote? She voted for Chrishell, and then Chrishell voted for CT, and CT voted for MJ. Like, she had her opportunity to win and still fumbled it. So Dolores, though, like, it just so happened like nobody saw her as a threat. And I do agree with you. Like, in future seasons, I do see people like knowing someone else is a faithful, banishing the other people because they didn't play as good of a game. Like, that's going to happen. And I do think Dylan might have. I don't think Dylan would have pulled that. He's already got the money. Like, he's set for life already. It's like 50 grand, another 50 grand. What's that to him?
Well, but also think about it. If there had been a gamer that had been in that Final Four, I think we would have had a different result. They were lucky to have the people that they did, so they ended it with Ivar and Dolores. And I think if it was anybody else, and I don't mean a traitor, but even if a faithful was a gamer, I think they would have gone for at least kicking one more person out. And I will say, one of the moments that they got me, and the only reason I realized that Dolores was going to vote to end the game, because I was like, oh, Dolores is going to vote to like Dylan's a traitor still or something. But then I realized there was only like 4 more minutes of the episode. And it's obvious. I was like, it's obviously over. But for a second there, I was like, what a great ending that would be if Dolores once again screwed up the final plan. Or,
or she votes to, like, I still think Ivar's a traitor. And then Dylan ends up getting voted out because Ivar and Britney think Dylan's a traitor. So like, I could see that also happening. So luckily, that did not happen. And I understand Dylan's point of view because I think he was still scared of Gabby, but he knew if he voted to banish again, he would have been the one going out, not Gabby. So I think he knew he had to take the risk that if Gabby's a traitor, she's going to take it all. But if she's not a traitor, I'm going to win. Like, as a 50-50, he can't put the red in because he's going out if you put the red in.
Something we've talked about all season, and Bergie especially, and I think this highlights even more of this on this final episode, is we've got to figure out the prize pot. Now listen, $50,000 to me or Bergie, I think we'd be very thrilled and excited, and we'd purchase multiple tiny houses across the
I would
US.
get half of my student loan debt gone.
But only
That's
half.
all Venti would do.
Only half.
Only half.
But we're it's like, this is how weird, like, I think all of our minds, we see those Final Four, and I'm in my head, I'm going, God, these guys are only making $50,000. That's a huge amount of money, but still, the final prize pot was around $204,000. And I know most of these people have money already. And like somebody like Gabby, I'm going to go over some Instagram statistics later in this episode. Obviously you get it on the back end because Gabby's been exposed to a whole new audience. Dylan's been exposed to a whole new audience. Lord Ivar, I don't know who he's been exposed to, but he could be a big influencer now, Lord Ivar, like who knows? But you get money on the back end, but still $50,000. Once again, like I know me and Bergie watch, but a lot of you guys don't. Deal or No Deal Island, the prize pot is over $9 million now. Some person's going to walk away with over $10 million on Deal or No Deal Island, and we only have $200,000 on the Traitors?
Yeah. Well, with Deal or No Deal Island, too, they have to play the banker still. So they could have the potential to walk away with like $3 or $4 million, which is still insane.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm going to I want to believe they're going to walk away with $9 million.
I would love to. They might get canceled for season 3.
Yeah.
Like, well, this budget.
Okay, so overall, Bergie, what did you think of this final episode? Because I think we both agreed last week after we weren't really totally excited to watch after Carolyn left, but it turned out to be a fantastic episode. And we left on that nail biter of a double vote. We had to re-vote, and it hinged on the vote of Britney. Is she going to vote Ivar or is she going to vote Danielle? And that's where we really were kind of at odds. But before we get into that vote, what did you think overall of this episode?
I would say this episode wasn't obviously the greatest. It wasn't probably the worst. It was just right there in the middle, maybe like a 6, or I would give it a 6 out of 10. It wasn't like super exciting at all because it just played out like you thought it would play out.
But I mean, exactly. But I will say I felt good. I had a smile on my face the whole time. And now, of course, like we had the ending last season where Chrishell and CT, like they went to the end. They totally screwed over MJ, which was so exciting and thrilling because you just couldn't believe. I mean, like and remember, CT and Chrishell didn't trust each other. So they had to re-vote and like they ended up coming together. And that was kind of this beautiful moment because they came from the real world road rules of it all. And so I thought that was thrilling and still backstabbing in a way. This was just kind of nice because 4 faithfuls made it. And so it was a different sort of nice. And I think I just watched the whole thing with just an appreciation for the season, which I thought overall was just a blast of a season and different and messy. But I still enjoyed it. But yeah, of course, like after the Danielle of it all, after the Britney of it all, this episode, where else are we going to go at this point?
Yeah, it was definitely a happy ending. It's just not going to be like, 10 years from now, I'm not going to be thinking of the Traitors season 3 ending. Like I will definitely be thinking of Ciara taking it and like the CT and Chrishell accidentally banishing MJ at the end. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's a happy ending, but it's not something that's going to be super memorable.
What if on my deathbed I actually am thinking of the Traitors season 3 ending? Like that is how those are my last thoughts. No, but once again, it's exciting and you just realize, oh, this show is going to be in our lives for a long time now. And what I'm excited about is to see, will there be changes in this game going forward? Because you talked about Survivor earlier, and Survivor eventually had so many seasons, they went into the new era. They changed like how many days you're there. They changed different pieces of the competition. And who knows? Like, I think Traitors will potentially evolve each season in some way, or I think it has to evolve in some way. And that's the thing that I'm excited for. So overall, I give this season like an 8 out of 10, like out of the gate.
I don't know. I have to rewatch season 2 and season 1, but I don't want to give it a number and then compare it to season 2 and then like have different numbers. Cause I haven't watched season 2 or season 1. I haven't watched season 1 since I like was preparing to go on season 2. So I'd like to like watch them both before like I put a placement on it.
Okay, well, I'm going to put a placement on it for you. You give it an 8 out of 10 as well.
8 out of 10 for right now.
Season 2 for me is still the top. I think that was just the best because season 1 also in just terms of release strategy, remember they dumped all of the episodes or most of the episodes on the same day on season 1. And that was the season with Kyle Cook from Summer House. And, we didn't really know the format yet because I was not watching the UK one. And it came and went, even though we were like, oh, this is really good. But season 2, they structured it so it was that week to week where it got more people involved and excited. So I think season 3 was overall more successful in terms of people tuning in. It's the number 1 unscripted reality television show. That's nothing to shake, that's amazing because this is on a streaming service, you guys. Like this is the place. If you are a publicist or an agent, you want to get your client on this show at this point.
Yeah, and that's super exciting too to see like where the show is going to go. And I'm like, damn, when they do a Traitors All-Stars, I don't think I'm getting a call because it's going to be so big by that point. They're going to be having like Harry Styles on the show. They're going to be like having these big names and they're like, people are like, remember season 2? No, look at Traitors All-Stars with this cast.
I mean, yeah, it was like they might just do it all. I always wanted them to do that with Survivor too, because I think like one time I read that Reese Witherspoon wanted to do Survivor, and I was like, I would love to see Reese Witherspoon do Survivor. Can you imagine if you saw some of these actual celebrities or see like Shaquille O'Neal play the Traitors or something?
Oh, but I think they could get Shaquille O'Neal. I bet. Who are the Kelsey brothers? I bet we see one of them on next season because they were talking about it on their podcast.
Were they really? They were
talking about Traitors season 2 before this season came out, and I was just like, "Oh, one of the Kelsey brothers are going to be on Traitors season 4."
Oh my! Well, it'll be Jason because there's no way Taylor would encourage Travis to go on Traitors. I think,
and he's still playing football right now too, so it's got to be Jason.
Yeah, and by the way, you need to focus on football, Travis, if you're listening. You can't have all these side gigs anymore. Okay, so first off, have you spoken to any Traitors or faithfuls? I know you have a friendship with Carolyn. You have a friendship with Chrishell. Have you talked to anybody about how you felt that this show ended?
I have not yet. I talked to Janelle like 2 days ago.
Janelle's from Big Brother.
From Big Brother. I've talked to her like 2 days ago, but the episode hadn't came out yet. So it was actually was probably Wednesday or Tuesday when I talked to Janelle. So we haven't talked about the ending yet.
And what did your girlfriend think of this episode?
She hasn't watched it yet. Yeah.
What? What's going on? Is she okay?
She's okay. We started watching like Star Wars and like got sidetracked.
Oh my God. Oh, I just started watching the show Paradise on Hulu. Have you watched it?
I have not.
Okay, it's really good. James Marsden, Sterling K. Brown. I know we're not here to talk about that, but I can't believe she didn't watch the finale of Traitors.
I think she's going to because she loves Gabby. My girlfriend is like the biggest Gabby fan. So it's eventually going to happen. It just hasn't happened yet.
Do you think this is going to cause friction in your relationship if she doesn't watch it?
No.
I love that you answered that seriously. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So Britney, we had this cliffhanger, and I thought what was so great is that last week we were talking about the double vote and what would happen after the double vote if we were tied again. And you brought up that there was some contraption that would be brought out on the table and it would be left up to chance. And I think we came to the conclusion of I think we both thought Britney was voting Ivar, but then when we started talking about that contraption being laid out, I kind of thought, well, if that is the case, they would have put that in the second to last episode because that would be the cliffhanger of spinning that thing and where is the fate going to land. So then I thought, oh, she really is going to vote for Danielle possibly, even though I had just been with Britney and she did not tell me who she voted for. But I think we were right. I mean, she obviously voted for Danielle.
Yeah, I was just like, I want my $20 that I said. I'm 90% sure about this. I'll put $20 on it.
Yeah, but remember, I was sure too. So there's no.
I wasn't betting against you. If anybody in the comments that's I'll bet against Bergie.
No, it was. I mean, but I will say, just I was. The thing that I keep thinking about this week, and I was texting with Britney yesterday, or on Thursday when I watched it. I watched it a couple hours before it aired because I got a copy, and I was like, "You were so close. You were so close." And she's like, "Did you see the reunion?" And I hadn't seen the reunion. She said, "Well, there's a little bit of a spicy moment between me and Danielle potentially. I don't know if it got left in, but I keep thinking, in retrospect." And I texted her this morning, and I haven't heard back yet. Because I was like, don't worry, I'm not going to keep just asking you Traitors questions until the end of your days. But in retrospect, do you think it was a mistake that she voted her out?
No, I definitely think she had to. And the other thing too is I think she should have gone to that round table and not voted for Ivar or talked about Gabby that round table. I think that was her downfall right there. I think she should have just sat there and was quiet and let Danielle take the force and then vote Danielle. As much as that would piss Danielle off, and as much as she's pissed now, I mean, you were on the Titanic. Britney could not unsink the Titanic.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there had been see, this is why I was also thinking is that at the beginning of the game, it's so much easier, it seems like, to be a traitor. Now, at the end of the game, it's insanely hard to be a traitor because you've now left so many breadcrumbs throughout the game and so many people have thought so hard about this where I feel like being a faithful is harder in the beginning. And towards the end, I think it becomes, and I would want to ask Dylan this, does it become relatively obvious in some ways? It's just that you never know whose paranoia is going to get the best of them. But almost the faithfuls have a little bit of an advantage at that point, whereas the traitors, it's so easy in the beginning because nobody knows what they're doing yet.
I would say yes to that as long as you're not the one leaving breadcrumbs as a faithful. You can still get yourself banished if you're leaving enough breadcrumbs for doing stupid things. I tied Dan and Parvati together by episode. It was the funeral episode. I tied Dan and Parvati together, and then I went to the round table the next day, and I had the shield, and then that all happened. And then I also was tying Sandra to Parvati and Dan, which was the wrong read. But I was like, Sandra's such a good game player, and I'm laying out all this information. Why isn't Sandra hopping on my train with me and helping me get these traitors out? I was like, Sandra's way too good of a game player. So I was like, now I have all this evidence against Sandra. I'm safe for the next 3 round tables because I will be knocking these 3 players out. So I feel more confident as a faithful. You know what I mean? But in the beginning as a faithful, I'm sweating in the bar getting grilled by Ekin-Su going, oh my gosh, I'm going to get banished. But as the episodes go on, it's like, okay, now I got evidence against these people and I can knock them out and I feel safe going to the round table with this evidence.
First off, I love Sandra, but second off, last season I really loved because she had adult braces, and I love like I've considered getting adult braces, and I just loved Sandra would have a little bit of a bracelet, and I love but also Sandra is an iconic player to me, and Suri as well, and Boston Rob as well. And I think that's the thing is that, these reality stars, they're different sorts of icons, but like having to explain Dorinda or Ion to Bergie, you're new with these reality stars, but we can appreciate the gamers. So in some way, we have to find some ways to put respect on Housewives and Bravo the same way we have gamer respect for Big Brother and Survivor. So that's the platform I'm running on in 2028.
Yeah, and it's crazy how much of a connection you can feel to someone that's a gamer that was maybe on 1 or 2 seasons of Survivor or Big
Why do you think
Brother.
that is?
I don't know. I have no idea, but like, and then it takes a lot longer for someone like on Summer House this year. We have that new girl, and I have no idea what her name is. But like, I feel
Lexi.
Yeah, but we're already on like episode 4, and I really don't feel any connection towards her. You know what I mean?
See, this is interesting because with Lexi and I did a Summer House recap a couple days ago, is that Lexi, you can tell production really likes and believes in because she's the only new person that each episode they give you a little something about her life. Like they talk about her parents or they talk about her friend who passed away. And you can tell the producers are investing, trying to get the audience to like her. And this is like where editing and storytelling comes into play. But it's so interesting because even with that, you're still not finding a connection.
Not at this moment. Only watching.
What about Jesse Solomon? Are you feeling a connection with him?
Solomon?
Jesse Solomon?
Oh yeah, he had testicle cancer.
Yeah, yes.
Yes. I feel a connection to like
come on, but he's over. He's love bombing this poor girl, and then he's like, "Oh, she wanted me. It might be too much. It might be too like, dude, you were all over her."
Yeah. Well, and then going back to Traitors, we could definitely talk about that for a little bit too, because I'm sure she's like. It's giving like Casa more like she just wants to get on the show, and Jesse's their way into the show to stay on for next season. But besides that, going back to Traitors, though, it's just like it's weird how like I can watch a season of like a reality TV show and maybe not feel like a connection to that person, but then watching one season with like 24 other people on a reality TV show, I can feel connected to a gamer, if that makes sense.
Well, do you think it's because you respect it because there is like a puzzle, like you're very analytical, by the way, we got to wish Bergie luck. He has an anatomy test coming up. So we got to put out the vibes. But I think, we're kind of trained to appreciate the human mind or like, oh, this is for smart people or, the human mind works this way. And we sometimes don't appreciate just actual human behavior, which is what like kind of Housewives is more human behavior. And another thing too, and I thought Britney pointed this out in the final round table when Dylan was like, listen, I'm sorry, but I think it's you. And Britney laid out this argument. And I think it was decently effective towards Dylan. And Dylan was like, oh my God, fuck, I'm so sorry. And he was like almost pouting about it. And, even though Britney was a traitor, she made this good point of like, I sometimes feel like we view women of if a woman stands up for themselves, they're immediately suspect. Like men stand up for themselves all the time. Boston Rob did it. Bob the drag queen did it. Like these men come in hard. But when a woman comes in hard, it's immediately suspect. And Dylan almost started pouting. And I really like Dylan. But did you notice that at all? Do you agree with me?
I don't know if I really noticed it, but I just noticed like you compare to when Britney was getting ousted by Boston Rob and then how she played against Dylan this roundtable. It was two different kind of, how am I trying to say it? And with Boston Rob, it felt like she was playing defense and she's like, yeah, I'm 100% faithful. This time when she was at the roundtable, it felt like she was 100% attack mode, which is just the kind of like a different Britney I feel like we saw at this roundtable. It felt like she was 100% aggressive towards Dylan. So,
but she showed signs of that aggression when Boston Rob came for her earlier in the season. I saw some of that aggression, but also if you're fighting for your life, I mean, I feel like I would be like, guys, come on, I am not this. I feel like I would do a very similar thing. But it read very aggressive to Dylan. And that's why I wish you could have longer interviews with like Gabby and stuff like that, because Gabby at that round table votes for Danielle, for Britney as well. And I'm like, well, why? So you obviously didn't buy into Britney's argument against Dylan. So obviously these people have a good feeling at this point.
I think they have a good feeling about Dylan, but at the same time, he still could have got recruited at any point. Like he could have got recruited 2 days ago instead of Britney. And now that you say it too, like they're so close to that $250,000 or $204,000. Britney was like one vote away from like she made that roundtable. She could have won $204,000. I really don't know like the psychology behind it, but you might be onto something with like when a woman stands up, like maybe they're in the wrong.
Well, yeah. I just feel like we label these people, and I obviously overuse, and I don't mean Karen type behavior, but sometimes we're like, oh God, like give it a rest. And Dylan, kind of succeeded Pilot Pete. He's compared to Pilot Pete a lot, and everybody was like, oh, automatic faithful, and yes, but I feel like Dylan had an easier way of playing that because I feel like that's who Dylan is as a person. It's like Carolyn, how she is as a person. It's like, yes, she has strategy and all that, but how Carolyn is as a person lends itself so well to go under the radar or to people kind of just like not really take her seriously.
Yeah. And then I was just thinking about too, this is the first time we see Dylan being attacked at the round table. We've never seen him attacked. I
know.
At the round table.
He's like, geez, fuck.
Yeah. And like, so maybe that's why, like the last time we probably saw that was a little bit with Bob the Drag Queen calling him misguided. And I just don't think maybe he handles pressure well as well. Like, I feel like that would be me at the same time. Like, I think I'd be kind of like Dylan too. If I was getting called at the round table, I'd be like, oh fuck, how do I get through this? Like I'm like my face would be quite red.
Because that's human behavior as well, is that you genuinely would get hurt if people thought you were like a liar and all of this. And you like, and he really had it relatively easy in terms of people, being suspicious of him all season. So when it is turned on him and you're this close to winning the game, it is kind of an interesting way of thinking about it. Now, this episode is the final episode, and it is, going back to my notes, The Day of Reckoning is Upon Us, which is a very long title. And Alan's like, by the pricking of my thumb, something wicked this way comes. So we're at that final vote, and Britney votes Danielle off. And Danielle's like, wow, you did it to me again. Now, I asked you if it was a mistake for Britney to vote Danielle, but was it a mistake for Danielle to recruit Britney?
I think Danielle needed to throw Britney under the bus. I'm just trying to think of like who we talked about this last week too. And like, I really don't know who else Danielle could have recruited with them getting banished. Like maybe there was a chance for Dylan to get banished, but it's so hard because like we were just talking too at the final fire pit. If there's a gamer there, they probably would have got banished as well, whether Britney survived that round table or not. So I really don't see a way for Danielle to win this game, no matter, because Ivar was never going to get banished. Dolores was never going to get banished. Dylan, this episode made it look like there was potential there, but still not enough. And then same with Gabby. I don't think Gabby could have got banished because we saw that last week as well. So I really think Danielle's game was over when she recruited Britney.
But that's why that's what I'm saying. It's at the end, it's so hard to be a traitor. You have this trail that Danielle has left. And I'm not saying, but there are so many things that you can now point to Danielle. And I understand why Britney did vote Danielle, but it is funny because if you are Danielle, if she did this to you on reindeer games, Dolores says in the reunion, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Like, was it worth that risk of thinking that Britney would try to make it up to you for reindeer games and vote her, and vote her way and stick with her? And I feel like Britney did try in the second to last episode to really, help Danielle, and it just the numbers weren't there. But now there's something in me that thinks, should Danielle have recruited Gabby? And then potentially, and this is what we don't know either, is that we find out that Britney has the power of the seer, but we don't know if she had that power of the seer because originally Danielle had the power, but Danielle got voted off, so it automatically went to Britney, as we talked to last week. So Did Britney always have the power of the seer, or did she only get it because Danielle was banished?
I don't have that answer. So
No, I know,
would,
but like,
yeah.
are you thinking about that? Because my thinking is like, okay, if Danielle didn't have it and Brittany had the votes all the time, if she recruited Gabby, then Brittany could have asked. I'm just trying to figure a way out of
Yeah,
this.
I really think there wasn't a way for Danielle to win this after everything that they went through. Like the recruitment wasn't her downfall. The downfall happened before the recruitment. There was no way for Danielle to win. She could have maybe had Gabby be the solo traitor winner, or Dolores or Ivar or Dylan if that happened. But there was no way. The recruitment was not her downfall. It happened before that. Like her being in the bookcase with Carolyn, like Gabby saw that, or like maybe if she recruited Gabby, Gabby wouldn't have said that. But I don't think there was a way for Danielle to win this after that whole season.
So she has to come to the circle of truth. She admits she's a traitor. Everybody's happy. But remember, Brittany is crying through some of this. And this is another note to any traitors or faithfuls that is listening to this to bone up on next season. Really be careful with the tears at the round table. Really, like, just be, use them maybe once at one moment. But the crying and the shaking, like Danielle, Danielle did, and then even Brittany with the tears. Even Brittany says after this, I might have laid it on a little thick. You've got to be really careful about your emotional range, because in the moment it looks good, and I think they believe it. And then I feel like the faithful start thinking about it and go, oh, that's an overreaction potentially.
No, that I 100% agree with that. Because remember, on my season, there was Deontay Wilder crying after we banished Max, because him and Max were like really close in the castle, and like someone brought it up. Do you think Deontay's like overplaying his traitor role? And then obviously he left the game because of like how hurt he was. He was literally hurt. But we were like getting ready to banish Deontay for crying about banishing Max. So like it's definitely, if you're a traitor, do not cry at the round table or after the round table. It does not look good for you.
This is how idiotic I was. I was like doing faces in the mirror this week, trying to see if I could I was trying to do like traitor faces, like what I would do if like I was like, maybe if I wanted to be intense, I would like raise my eyes like I really care, but never any tears. Like this is what this guy, I really want to play this game someday. Not like obviously the celebrity version. Anyways, so, Danielle is leaving you guys, and she says to everybody, compliments to everybody except for Britney. She just says, Britney, wow. But I said I came to play by any means necessary, and of course, I'm definitely a traitor. And then she gives a twirl of her hair, and she's off. And Dolores is like, oh my God, they all go to console Britney. And this is where I wrote big reactions are sometimes not good. And, I think it's Dolores who says, I feel stupid because I didn't think Britney would be. Oh, no, sorry. Danielle says, I feel stupid because I didn't think Britney would be the nail in my coffin. I should have taken her out. I should have killed her. But she was thinking she was going to get extra loyalty, and she didn't. And Britney, in her talking head, says, I wanted to win this game with Danielle. I absolutely hate the way it happened. But even if she made it tonight, the next night, there would be no way.
Yeah, just like what you said, she would be banished no matter what at the next round table. If Ivar goes up there, stands, I'm a faithful, Danielle's out. Like her game was over. Like there was no way for Danielle to win this. And to blame it all on Britney too is she pissed. Sorry, Danielle. I bet you're a great person, as Ryan always says too, and I fully agree with that. But
by the way, everybody always doesn't hear me say I bet she's a great person. They always just think I hate I do not hate Danielle. In fact, I would love to talk to Danielle at this point. Like, and by the way, it's fun to dislike somebody on a reality show. That's part of the experience. I dislike people on Love Island USA. I dislike people on Survivor right now. It is fun, but I will say, in Danielle's defense, it has been amazing to watch her these last couple of episodes because I finally saw the gameplay, and I don't, that wouldn't be my personal, I think, way of doing it or what I like seeing, but now I finally see it when she's like, you could tell the confidence is there.
Mm-hmm. And like from my understanding of the whole Big Brother thing, I really don't feel like that was Britney's fault in the beginning. And then also too, for Danielle to throw Britney right under the bus, like at the very end of this, it just made the rest of the episode. I wish production cut that out. I wish.
Well,
that part.
It was like Boss and Rob. Britney had an uphill battle for the fine. It's like Britney did what she could at this point, and I think she did it really deftly and good. But there was the cards are stacked against her at this point as well.
Well, Danielle just doing that last little, I'm going to give everybody a compliment and then I'm going to insult Britney before I leave. Like that's what really triggered me. I'm like, well, I bet Britney gets out. And then Dylan clocked it. And then Dylan's like, well, why would Danielle do all this and give everybody else a compliment, but not Britney? Britney must be a traitor. I was just like, come on. Like, I wish there's got to be a rule next year or something for traitors not to turn on traitors. And I know Traitors Australia season 2 did the Traitors Dilemma where they have to choose to steal or split. Honestly, if 2 traitors make it to the end, double the prize pot and split it to both of them, because that's amazing if you can get 2 traitors to the end without a recruitment.
Yeah, but no, I totally agree. So at this point, we realize there's going to be no murder tonight. And by the way, this is mainly an audio podcast, but we do have a YouTube channel. So go subscribe if you want to see Bergie's beautiful face and my elephant man face. But I want to say I did read a comment of like, we said, oh, who's going to get murdered tonight? And they're like, do you even watch the show? There's not a murder anymore. And I was like, no, we do not watch the show. Yes, of course we watch the show. I'm sorry that we forgot that there was somebody who was murdered. Sorry.
I'm a busy grad student. I study like 60 hours a week, and then I watch this episode once. I don't watch it 3-4 times over to like
and I'm a busy television watcher. I watch 30 housewife shows a week. So that's just as busy as Bergie.
I don't analyze everything going on like if I was actually there. I wish I could. If I had the time, I definitely would analyze everybody's gameplay and say, oh, this person played a better gameplay than this person. I'm just watching this once and giving my opinions out there.
And we also just learned he's watching way too many Star Wars shows with his girlfriend earlier today. So anyways, we find out there's going to be no murder tonight. And we also find out at the next round table, whoever gets dismissed, they don't tell you if they're a traitor or a faithful in the circle of truth. So they don't know if they're going to have banished the right person or not. Now, Dolores is like, oh my God, Danielle should get the Emmy. She should get the Oscar, the way she convulsed. In a talking head, Dolores says, I'm ashamed myself. Like at this point, I can't underestimate anyone. And Dylan says, if I was more gullible, I would have taken her to the end, which was obviously Danielle's plan, right? Mm-hmm. Dylan says Danielle said nice things about each person, but she felt betrayed by Britt. And that's the biggest clue we have now. And so now we find out Britney has the power of seer, and she can invite one person to dinner, and she chooses that person to be Gabby. The power of the seer, she'll have an envelope, and she'll be able to see that Gabby is a faithful. The problem is that Britney is a traitor. So what is she going to do with this information? And also, Dylan, pretty smart, says, here's the deal. If she goes and comes back and starts hinting that Gabby is a traitor, we know that Britney is a traitor because she's trying to throw suspicion to Gabby. So in my head, I was like, oh, this seems like Britney will probably say Gabby's a traitor. Is that what you thought as well?
Yeah, it was kind of my first thought of my head too. It was like, oh, Britney's going to say Gabby's a traitor. But if I had a night to think about this like Dylan did, I think I would come to the same conclusion no matter what. If someone comes back from that conversation saying they're a traitor, then they're both traitors, and we got to get rid of both of them. We can't risk having one of them be a faithful and one of them being a traitor. Like, if they both come back as faithful, then we can figure out which one to banish. But if one of them is a traitor, we got to banish both of them.
Yeah. So they have this dinner. They're pouring champagne. We open the envelope. She finds out that Gabby's obviously a faithful. And Gabby's like, I told you. Yay. We'll just stick together. And Britt in a talking head says, all my strategy skills I'm going to need to use to make it to the end. So the next day we have our final breakfast. Dylan comes in. Dylan says, he made it here by his relationships, and that's why he's still in the game. Dolores comes in, and Dolores is like, how did we make this? I'm like, Dolores, I don't know how you made this. I know how Dylan made this. But
I can tell you why. Because none of the traitors saw her as a threat, and then nobody believed she could be a traitor because she didn't know how the game worked. So that's how she made it to the end.
I think Dolo says, I'm not emotional, that's for pussies, which I thought was a funny line. Ivar, by the way, comes in a very jaunty jacket. It was his most bold fashion choice the entire game. And I like that Lord Ivar is finally coming out of his shell. He's like, let's party, everybody,
I bet production had that suit waiting. They're like, no way did we think we had to pull out the suit for you.
I can't believe I finally get to wear my party jacket. Amazing.
And you know what? I actually started to like Ivar by the end of the season.
Me too.
At the beginning, I was like, why is he really here? And then by the end, I'm like, all right. Like, especially last week when he was talking to Britney, he's like, it's just the game, dear. No need to worry.
Yeah, I know, because Britney was crying to him last time. He's like, oh dear, it's just a game. It will be okay. But at the end of the day, I will say, even after all of this, what I walked away with, like, I liked everybody. That's what I'm saying. I loved that Danielle was able to have those last couple of episodes, at least for me, where I was like, I walked away liking everybody. I was just like, oh, this show makes me happy. So anyways, Brittany in a talking head says, listen, I've been in the gamer environment and there are blind sides all the time. So I am hoping to work some magic. Britt and Gabby walk in. They ask how they slept. Britt says she doesn't sleep well, which is another thing. If anybody is listening, if you are a faithful or a traitor, don't talk about how you sleep. Or if you do talk about how you sleep, say you slept really soundly. Because if you say, oh, I tossed and turned, people automatically assume a traitor tosses and turns, right?
Yeah. Dan told me I was up all night trying to figure out who the traitors were. And this is the night Tamara got murdered. And then he goes, I just can't piece this puzzle together. And he said it so bad where I was just like, it's like, you're a traitor, dude.
Yeah.
I wish I called him out on it because that would have been so funny, me calling out Dan. But I was too Bergie.
You couldn't call somebody out that big, a winner of Big Brother, because you were somebody that came from Love Island. So you have to almost respect the hierarchy.
And where my confidence level was to like just be like Carolyn, like when Tony was like, oh, I don't want to be a traitor, and Carolyn just goes, oh, you want to be a traitor. Like, I wish I had the confidence just to be like, Dan, that was really sus. And like, put him on blast.
Which, by the way, we have to speak about Carolyn too, because it came out this week that Carolyn might have a crush on one Mr. Tom Sandoval. And we talked about this when we interviewed Carolyn a couple weeks ago, where she was like, I don't know, Tom was a nice guy. I didn't realize she potentially has a crush on Tom Sandoval. And Ion said, she didn't call Carolyn out by name, but in a tweet she said, Tom doesn't want anything to do with this person that has a crush on him, which I was like, Ion, how dare you? Carolyn's an amazing person, but Carolyn, do not date Tom Sandoval. He's a girlfriend. I don't think that matters, but do not date Tom Sandoval, Carolyn. Please, Carolyn.
Yeah, I agree. Do not date Tom Sandoval.
Okay.
I don't know his backstory, but you said something. He has a girlfriend and it doesn't matter. So that tells you everything you need to know.
Yes. He's a fun guy. Hang out with him. Do karaoke if you want, but just keep it at that, Carolyn. You're going to be fine. Anyways, we're here, and it's revealed that Gabby. She's like, I'm pleased to announce that Gabby is a faithful. And Dylan is kind of bummed. She's like, I'm almost certain Britney was a traitor, and she was going to walk in and say Gabby was a traitor. So now I'm very confused. And Brittany in a talking head realizes this. She says, if I claimed she was a traitor, both of us would be suspicious and both of us would be out. So what's interesting too is that I think Brittany at this point realizes she's got like a 50-50 chance at best to do this. But she could have thrown Gabby under the bus, and I almost think she purposely did. I think it was strategy, but I also think she was looking out for Gabby a little bit. Like, I think she liked Gabby and said like, listen, I'm going to do my best, but I'm also going to make sure I don't destroy Gabby.
Yeah, and I also wish we got to see Britney as a traitor in the very beginning, because the way she played, she's very intelligent, and I think she would have been a great traitor from the very beginning. Obviously, we got to see her as a traitor, but from the very beginning would have been awesome.
So Alan finally comes into the breakfast. He's like, the day of reckoning is before us. Currently, the prize pot stands at $166,000, which every time I hear that dollar amount, I'm like, okay, fine. Okay, can we all like GoFundMe this, like, and raise the price? So everybody's just saying how brutal it is. Ivar is with Gabby in the kitchen with Dylan, and he's like, no one is around here walking anymore. It's very lonely. And they think there's one traitor left, right? And now this is like the suspicion game. They're like, okay, I would be suspicious maybe of Dolores since she voted wrong every time. In fact, Andy Cohen pointed out at the reunion, Dolores voted 8 out of 10 times completely wrong. That's a record.
Well, Ivar has banished the most traitors more than anybody else, which is a crazy stat. In all of traitors, like UK, New Zealand, and US, he banished all 5 this year. And like normally in a season, like you maybe have 3 to 4. So like last year, I think CT banished all 4, but this year we had 5 traitors. So Ivar banished all 5 traitors, which is insane. He played the best like banishing game for traitors.
That's amazing. Anyway,
that's a 50% correct stat. If there was, how many times did you say Dolores was wrong? 8?
8 out of 10.
Yeah. So Ivar was 50%. Half the time he was getting a traitor out.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Right.
So now Dylan is talking to Britney. And she's like, I don't think I've talked to you after Danielle left. Why? What's up? And Dylan's like, she was mad at you when she was lying the whole time for her to go run and say that thing at the very end. It's very personal. If I learned anything from my big brother time, Britney says, it's how a good actor operates. And Dylan's like, Britt is acting and you only need to act if you're a traitor. So Dylan is really on to Britney at this point. And Britney in a talking head says, it's obvious Dylan is suspicious of me. The last round table really exposed me. So she's very aware. Dylan, though, does say there's a good chance that all 5 of us are faithfuls at this point. And Britney's like, oh, good. I'm glad that that I'm not the only one saying this. It's like Lord of the Flies at this point, but we all could be faithful. And Dylan's like, we just don't know. Cut to Dolores and Dylan. Dolores says it's either Britney or Ivar. I love that Dolores will not let go of the Ivar. Dolores is like, I really don't know. And Dylan says, listen, I've trusted Ivar this whole time. Ivar walks in. He's like, I'm Johnny No Mates, because none of his friends are there. Ivar looks at Dolores and goes, you're not going to vote for me, please. And there's an awkward laugh. Dylan says, it's all about trust. We are saying the same thing over and over and over again. And that's what this episode was. Even though I enjoyed it, there was a lot of things just kept saying over and over again. We realize it's about trust. We realize it's about all of this stuff. Cut to Gabby thanking Britney for not framing her. Now is a point where Britney and Gabby start talking about Dylan acting suspicious and a little weird. And Britney's like, I'm not saying traitor, but he's acting weird. And Gabby says, we've never been close, but I'm not writing anything off. Okay, so everybody's suspicious of everybody, or at least that's how the edit is making it work. Now we go to the game for our final challenge. What did you think of the final challenge for this?
I'm jealous. Just jealous
because you want to hover over a helicopter.
I want to hover over and drop stuff. Like I was so excited last year because like in the season before they had Kate drop out of a helicopter into the lake and then swim. I was like, that is like the dopest thing. And I was like, okay, I just need to make it to the end so I get to ride in a helicopter. Didn't make it to the end. And then watching them this season, I'm like, that looks so much
we're
fun.
we're gonna get you in a helicopter one day, Bergie.
One day, eventually.
I'm staying with my buddy Matt and his wife right now in Arizona because we're here for a music festival and to see my dad. And his brother-in-law. His brother owns a helicopter company in Flagstaff, so we'll get you in a helicopter.
Heck yeah! I've always wanted to ride in a helicopter.
You know what? I don't know if we're going to let you be able to hang out of it though, so it would just be in the helicopter. What if we, by the way, Bergie, what if we just start filming our own reality competition series and we do it really like cheaply and people get hurt? That's not good.
That's not good.
Yeah. So anyways, there's clues on this that like there's classic cars involved and clues. And there's like, I am the official animal of this nation. I'm impossible to hunt. And it's like stag, wolf, lion, and the unicorn is the right answer because you can't hunt them because they're fake. And Alan's like, run like the wind.
I just want to say, I would have loved if they got the animal incorrect and they drove all the way out there, time ran out. They paid for this helicopter to go up. Like, there's no helicopter ride, none of it. They just chose the wrong answer.
I would have loved it.
Like, no, it's the unicorn. It's the unicorn. Don't pick that one.
I would have loved if Dolores said, it's Tom, even though Tom wasn't an option. He's like, a unicorn, a stag. It's Tom. It's Tom. I know it's Tom. By the way, in this final vote, when they finally do get Britney out, that I was like almost positive Dolores was going to vote Tom again, even though Tom wasn't there any longer. I
was worried she was going to vote Ivar, and then they were going to go to the end and then vote out Ivar or something stupid like that.
Anyways, there's like all these codes they have to like put in this thing. And, Britney was really good at math, but Gabby says she's really good at her periodic table, which was very fun. They get into these classic cars, they get the gold, And, they think the mission is over. And then all of a sudden a helicopter appears from underneath and goes above. And this is a chance for them to double the prize pot money. Each person is going to be strapped to another person hanging off the helicopter. And they're going to drop their gold bags into this circle of fire to double their money. And they take to the skies, fly over the castle, and people are trying to drop their bag in. Britney goes with Dolores. They missed the first time, but they get it the second time. Now, Ivar goes by himself. He misses it. And Alan Cumming has a great line of like, I never thought I'd see a royal family flinging bags of gold into a ring of fire. And he gets one finally, I think. And then last up is Dylan and Gabby. And this was sweet. Gabby says, Dylan has been so good and supportive. I'm so glad he's my partner, but don't tell anyone I said that. And, this was a sweet moment. Anyways, they ended up adding $37,000, $500 into the prize pot. So the final prize pot, it's $204,300. Back in the castle, Britney is talking to Gabby and Dolores about what are you thinking? Dolores still doesn't know yet. Did you talk to Chrishell about what these final moments are like when it's just like 3 or 4 of you left?
I heard it's really boring from what I've heard.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Like, there's got to be a lot of downtime. How many more times can you say like, oh, we don't know who to trust?
Well, yeah, and that was the thing when I was talking to Chrishell about it. She said like everyone kind of already knew who they were voting for, and they just kind of had to like sit around and make small talk or like say like give reasons why they were going to vote someone out, because like you already like in your mind you probably already have it made up who you're going to vote out. So it's just like just go confirm it with everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious if like production gives them things to like talk about, or like, could you mention this? Could you mention that? Like, because there's only so many conversations you can have at this point. And does production have a pretty good idea at this point how it's going to play out? Like, do they already, like, when you were in your talking heads back when you were in the show, like, I know they had you explain like who you were suspicious of, but would they ever ask a question like, if the game was over now, who would you vote for?
I can't 100% recall, but definitely like who are you suspicious of and like why? Tell me what's going on in this conversation. This happened during the challenge. It's never. I don't know if they ever asked like who am I going to vote for until like I wrote on the chalkboard, because that can all change in a split second. Because I bet they had no idea about Sari backstabbing Ari in season 1. Like they were probably just as shocked.
Oh, okay. Was it, well, because I was also, didn't we say before that when you write the name down at the round table, they do go around and they know each person who they're voting for?
So yeah, so like you write your name down and then you put your chalkboard down, and then like a person comes in and then they look, and you can't change your vote once that person walks in, and then they look at everybody's chalkboard and then they walk out, and then Alan's already in there, but then they tell Alan where to start the voting.
Before that happened, did anybody on your season, would they write furiously and then go like scribble it out and write again? Did you notice?
The only time I did that was, I know when Dan outed Phaedra, she was pissed. Like her chalk was like breaking as she was writing down Dan's name. Like that was pretty crazy. When I struggled the most was the Larsa vote out, because I didn't think Larsa was a traitor, but I also knew CT wasn't a traitor because she was gunning for CT, and I'm like, CT's not a traitor. Larsa's
he of course is talking Larsa Pippen from Real Housewives of Miami, who went into the game with her boyfriend Marcus Jordan, who is no longer her boyfriend.
Yes, I think whatever happened to Marcus.
He had some legal
He's
issues
having
lately.
some legal issues right now. But anyways, like it was them two, and I'm like, okay, I could vote for Dan because I do think he's a traitor, but I don't want to vote for Dan because then that could get me killed. But I'm going to vote for Larsa because I also don't want to burn my vote and CT ends up leaving the game. And I think CT maybe got 2 votes or something. It was Larsa and somebody else, but I ended up voting for Larsa.
Ended up voting for Larsa. Did she treat you rude at all after that point?
She told me I'm going to get murdered. It's even in the episode. She's like, well, you're going to get murdered by CT next week or something like that, even though we were filming every day. So I was just like, well, it'd be tonight.
Sorry, I'm DMing Chrishell right now to just say we're saying hi and talking about you. Okay, so Back to this game, we are at this point where they are just walking around the castle, talking to each other. We have Dylan and Ivar, and Dylan's like, I'm 100% voting for Britney. Ivar's like, how convinced are you about Gabby, though? And Dylan's like, well, I'm pretty confident. And Ivar says, there's not two traitors left. There's got to just be one. There's got to just be one. So Ivar is the one that is actually keeps throwing that out, which I think is good because you're so confused at that point because there's a little thing, oh, maybe Gabby and Britney are both traitors at this point because they had that little rendezvous. Who knows? Gabby says Dylan's going to expect people to follow him, but he's been wrong too. So maybe Dylan's wrong. Gabby in a talking head says this would be the biggest twist of the game if Dylan is actually a traitor, which, by the way, would have been an amazing twist.
That or Ivar. Could you imagine Ivar? There's only one more traitor left, and then they banish Britney. He's like, "Yep, that was the last traitor." That he pulls out. Yeah, there was two traitors left. I'm a traitor.
I say a lot of stupid things on this show, and I want to just throw this stupid thing out there for you to completely bat away. What if we don't know who the traitors are for the first 5 episodes next season?
I know a lot of people say that. I think it would be cooler if they did like a spin-off show, or not the spin-off show, but the traitors releases. And like you go onto that episode, you can watch that, or it's called The Faithful. It's the same
like a traitors
episode.
cut.
Yeah, like they released the same week, like episode with the traitors in it, and then there's The Faithful with, just the faithful in it, and they don't show the traitors.
By the way, House of Heroes is still a really solid reality show idea that Bergie came up with last week. House of Villains we have on E, but what about House of Heroes? And we just celebrate heroes and we make them into villains eventually.
Or it could be like. I don't know how they do it. Maybe they could do like duos or something. So you got to save your other person that you're on the team with or something. I don't know how they would do it. But
Dylan pulls Gabby and says, I'm voting Britney tonight. I would love to be on the same page. And Gabby's like, I don't know anymore. Britney says this whole time Dylan is about, Britney's trying to throw suspicion. He's like, Dylan this whole time has about getting the money, right? Like, I don't think he would take a 4-way split. And I would never do that to you, Dolores. So now she's trying to throw some suspicion of like, well, even if he's a faithful, he might get you out because he doesn't want to split the money. And Dolores is like, I'm not trusting anyone and I'm angry. I'm not angry. I'm not used to being around liars, which is the funniest line of this episode. If you watch Real Housewives of New Jersey, you are very used to being around liars. That's all I will say. Dolores says to Dylan, you better not fuck me. If you better tell me if you're going to vote me out. And if you're a traitor, I will kill you. And by the way, it's funny, but at the same time, it's really kind of a little scary at this point.
Yeah, and I think that's also what helped Dylan throw green instead of red. He's like, I cannot vanish again because Dolores will be gunning for me.
Could you imagine Dylan has to get into witness territory because of witness protection because of Dolores? But you can tell Dylan is like, this sucks right now, Mm-hmm. Gabby in the talking head says, I don't know who to trust. Someone is lying to me. I'm afraid to look around the room. We get to the round table and there's just a bunch of pauses. And I thought Britney was going to start, which I was like, okay, Britney doesn't start. It's Gabby. So I was like, smart move. Because if Britney started, that would seem like she has something to prove. Mm-hmm. Britney goes, and Britney says she's a faithful. And Gabby says, I want to thank you, Britney. I appreciate you not using it against me. If you were Danielle, it would be a much different storyline because they're saying if Danielle was in that spot and had the Ciara ability, she would have thrown Gabby under the bus. Am I correct?
Say that again. Sorry, I spaced out for
how dare
yeah,
you?
I know.
So, I was saying is that Gabby says if Danielle had the Ciara ability, it would be a different story. Britney didn't throw me under the bus, but I have a feeling Danielle would have.
I think Danielle would have, and I think she would have got them both banished. She would have tried to pull something out of that, but I don't think it would have worked out.
But Britney immediately says, I don't have it in me to pull some sort of crazy act like that. And I almost felt like this was the wrong line to say, because if you think about it, it's a little bit of a reveal going, if I'm a traitor, I still couldn't do that. Yeah. To me, it was a little revealing in a very subtle way.
I don't know. Because you kind of have to play both angles at it. I don't know. Because when you're a traitor or a faithful, you have to say well, if I was a traitor or if I was a traitor, I would do this. I don't know. I don't know the best way because you're right in that line. Yeah. It is a subtle hint, but at the same time, you have to explain if I was a traitor, I'd be doing this or something. I don't know.
Okay, the only other question I have for you is that now we have Ivar saying he's all of a sudden bringing up Dolores. Ivar says, Dolores, there's a little suspicion. At the round table, do they ever have a general rule in the rule book of, listen, even if you're sure everybody here at the table that it's this one person, you still have to bring somebody else's name up?
No, there's
Okay.
no rule for that. Well, at least how far I made it, I don't think they have to do that. I think Ivar just wanted to like make sure everybody's a faithful before he gets to that final fire pit. I think that's what it was.
Anyways, Dolores says, I'm not a traitor because I've been loyal my whole life. It's not in my DNA to be able to do this. Now, Ivar defends himself. He's like, I came in here as a faithful. I've always lived my life in the public eye. Whenever I appear in the newspaper for doing something silly, I always had to answer to something. We've always been told in the Royals, you don't want to be in the newspaper. So I don't do drama. That is not me. That is my brother, Prince Philip, who used to hang out with Jeffrey Epstein. So he doesn't say that last part, but that's what he's referring to potentially. Now, Dylan says, listen, he says point blank, I will most likely vote for you, Britney. I think there's a good chance all 5 of us are faithfuls, but you had serious suspicion. Derrick Derrick said it. You went head to head with Boston Rob and with Danielle, and you just did it again to me. There is something more there. The chance you are in a turret is there. And Britney says, it's not a good look, I understand, but what she said to you, Danielle, to you is not a good look. She said to you, Dylan, she was visibly distraught that you voted for her. She did not expect that. And after the seer power, you wanted it and you were willing to risk more, and you were visibly upset, Dylan, when you didn't win the seer. The person most scared of someone else winning seer power is a traitor. And Ivar says, so you think Dylan is a traitor? And he's like, well, I think Dylan more than anyone else. And Dylan's like, I'm blown away. What? Like, he's actually hurt. And Britney says, so you can say I'm a traitor, but I can't say you're a traitor? That's the great point, is like, wait a sec, you can tell me, but I can't tell you back. And so this kind of goes into this back and forth and saying, like, if I was a traitor, these murders wouldn't make any sense, Like, it wouldn't make sense. And she goes, Dylan, the way you're... Dylan says, the way you're attacking me, Britney, I feel like you're a traitor more than ever. And Britt's like, I'm going to defend myself. Who has been murdered? Makes sense. That was my enemy. Nobody, right? And Ivar says, if you weren't if you were, you might have been the meekest of all the traitors. And she's like, do I seem meek to you? And Ivar says, well, compared to some of the others, yes. I think you're meeker than Rob and Boston Rob and Danielle. And Britney says, everything I said is factual information. We all must be faithfuls. And Dylan says, another reason I'm a faithful, I won't say it. Jesus Christ. He literally starts kind of breaking
spiraling
down.
out.
Yeah. And that's when Alan's like, the time for talk is over. We've brought the name Jesus Christ into it. We must stop.
I think they let him finish that. They just edited Alan going, time for talk is over.
So at this point, do you even have any doubt in your mind who's going home?
I felt like Dylan was not going home, so I knew it was kind of Britney.
Yeah, I thought it was Britney. The only hope I had was that Dolores was going to do another weird vote. That was my only hope. And that I even knew Gabby at this point knew. So Dolores says she sees her children and, in everybody here, and I'm going to have to vote with her brain and not her heart. Thank God she finally chose to do this. And Britney says to Dylan, Britney votes for Dylan and says, don't come for me unless I send for you, which is an iconic housewife line. Dylan votes for Britney. Ivar votes for Britney. And Dolores votes for Britney. And she's like, I'm so proud of you. Last night you had that exchange with Danielle and I just doubted a little bit. And Gabby votes for Britney. And Britney says, I was coming in with facts, but Danielle, Britney saying it's basically a mistake that Danielle let Dylan stay in the game this long, right? This was shouldn't have done this.
Yeah, I agree with that because Dylan had the smarts to figure it all out. And even Boston Rob said I would kill Dylan before the end too, even though if you fully trust me. Because I don't think Dylan would have finished the game with a gamer. I really don't. So I think he would have banished every other gamer by the end of it, just because how the past 2 seasons have gone, because I'm sure he watched the first 2 seasons with Ciara winning and then, Dan getting picked, there's so many Survivor and Big Brother players getting picked to be traitors. So it's
Yeah.
like, why would you finish with the Big Brother Survivor player? That's just dumb.
Yeah. So Britney, you guys, has to leave, but she doesn't tell anybody she's a traitor or a faithful. So that was one of the rules. And, they're like, we were very clear about this vote. And Dylan says, I took a lot of heat and it was hard. So now Dylan has to be worried because we're going to be in the final fire pit. So maybe Britney did throw enough suspicion on Dylan that he might not be able to win at the end. And Dolores, Alan's doing little one-on-one interviews, and he's like, do you think people underestimate you in this game? And she's like, I wouldn't have gone this far if I wasn't underestimated. And she goes, I don't trust Dylan. He has the most power in this game. Gabby says she's scared of someone lying to her face. And this is a great line. She says, winning would mean everything. Me and my girlfriend, she would be so proud of me, and we would get married. And you guys, spoiler alert if you're not online, she did get married to her girlfriend, or Robbie Hoffman. It might be non-binary actually, so I'm sorry if I'm misgendering, but she's a brilliant comedian, and they did get married in Vegas. So congratulations to the happy new couple. I was very happy for them. We're at the fire of truth now, and they all have to vote if they're going to end the game or banish again. And what was your thoughts in terms of, did you think everybody was going to go green?
Well, okay, so I kind of spoiled it for myself because I hit up on my remote to see how much time was left, and I'm like, there's not enough time for them to be banishing each other. But so that kind of spoiled it for me. But I was kind of worried, and then once I saw that, I kind of knew it wasn't. So I can't even tell you what my opinion is. But yeah, I was kind of shocked that nobody wanted to banish again. I'll be honest, I was shocked nobody banished again.
Yeah, I was expecting one more, but I guess this just shows they're just better people than we are. Yeah. So good for them. And I'm more excited. Congratulations to whoever does the effect that turns it green. I just think things like that are cool. I'm like, hey, green fire, cool. I just like stuff like that. So everybody says they have to go around because they all vote to end the game, and then they have to go around and say if they're faithful. And Ivar faithful, Dolores faithful, Gabby says faithful, faithful, and then it's finally Dylan. And Dylan says faithful. They've won. They did the right thing. They're good people. And then they find out earlier this evening that Britney actually was a traitor. So they are leaving with money and friendships, and we end with fireworks. And that is the end, right? Did you watch the reunion?
I did watch the reunion. Did you?
Did anything stand out to you in the reunion? Last time they all had you in the same room immediately, didn't they? Because this was it was a different set, wasn't it?
I think it was the same set, but they had the winners separated and MJ separated, and then they made us watch the whole, MJ debacle happen before, and then they brought in everybody, MJ, CT, and Chrishell. Yeah. So they let that play out first, and then, but we kind of all talked, so we kind of already knew what was going to happen. So nobody was super shocked.
At that moment, just to take us back, because Mercedes was very hurt about Chrishell and CT. Was that openly spoke about backstage and when cameras weren't rolling?
Oh yeah, because we went to New York and NJ was pissed still, so it's just we all knew something was up, and then you figure it out. It's why is MJ so pissed at CT and Chrishell? She won't even talk to them, and she unfollowed them on everything, and and Chrishell was trying to make up for it, talking to MJ, and MJ wasn't having any of it. So it's just wow. But
I will say, though, this is the power of this game, is that I think it did wonders for Mercedes' career overall. I think there's a potential for a Shaws of Sunset reboot. I know she's, I think you get more opportunities from this. And so we're at this reunion, and we're not going to cover the whole reunion, but I just wanted a couple of facts that I thought were interesting. Andy welcomed the first Bravo winner, Dolores. And
yeah, that's actually interesting. That's the first Bravo
winner. And it was 8 out of 10 times you voted wrong. So I love that he put that out there. And, Dolores says, listen, I thought I've always been somebody who can sniff people out, but this game threw me threw me off. And Andy's like, you were so close so many times, and then you would just vote for Sandoval. And Dolores is like, he was using me to get the traitors mad at me. And Sandoval's not even out that yet. They just have the winners, but you can see reaction shots from the faithfuls and faithfuls in the other room. Andy asked the most important question of all: is how does Dylan maintain his abs in the castle? Great question.
Yeah, he said he was like falling apart, didn't he?
Yeah, he said he was very skinny and pale, but I'm like, oh, shut up, Dylan. Would you go down to a 4-pack? Sorry.
Yeah.
Remember Bergie last week told us he would entertain himself in his hotel room by walking from one side of the room and touch the door to the other side of the room. That's how he kept his steps.
His castle bedroom.
Oh, sorry. Not I didn't mean his castle bedroom. Of course, yes. Sorry.
Yes.
Andy said, "Gabby, you have great instincts." And she's like, "From Bachelor Nation, you sniff out the BS. Like 26 dudes, you sniff it out." And Ivar says, "Why did I play this game? It helped me live outside my comfort zone. I was surprised." Ion comes out, Ion in a box. She goes, I'm surprised that Ivar is here too. I like that Ion, like, you could just tell Ion and Dorinda were very mad they didn't make it further in the game.
Yeah, well, especially early out, because if I got asked to do Traitors All-Stars, if I get the privilege to do it, you know how pissed I would be? I'd probably cry if I got murdered first out. Like, I've been looking forward to this experience for 5 or 6 years from now. And I've been looking forward to it since 2023. So 6 years, I've been looking forward to it. And then I get out right away.
Okay, wait, so I've got an idea. So listen, Traitors All-Stars, we're going to need big name celebrities, right? So you've already been on 2 reality shows, but we need to get you to be a bigger celebrity. But this is what I'm going to pitch to you. We need to take clips of you saying, if I'm the first out, I'm going to cry really hard. Because if I was a producer, I'd be like, we need this guy. He's a loose cannon with his emotions. We need him in there. So I think that could help being
that could help. Also. Or if I get banished first, I will also be just crying at the round table. And I'll fall over onto the table and be shaking like Danielle was.
I would say I have IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, and I'm going to need to go to the bathroom so many times. So you could do funny montages of me just running to the bathroom all the time. So then we have the other, the winners. We have the traitors come out: Boston Rob, Bob the Drag Queen, Danielle, and Carolyn. And I have to tell you, Bob the Drag Queen wins. The look was insane. The red gloves, it was so dramatic and so big, and it reminded me of a superhero in this really cool way. And Carolyn, by the way, Carolyn and Danielle both look gorgeous. Gorgeous. Boston Rob, he's like me, just put on an ill-fitting suit, but he's Boston Rob. And Britney will join in a bit. And I don't know, they're just joking about blood on Bob the Drag Queen's hands because he has red hands. Carolyn admits that she slept in a cloak because she wanted to be a traitor so bad. So she used to do that as a bit. She would sleep in a traitor's cloak. She really wanted to be a traitor. And Danielle, this is the pieces that were important. Danielle, how would you describe working with Carolyn? And Danielle says it was organized chaos. We got things done, but it was chaotic. And Carolyn was like, I thought it was going well. So do you think Carolyn really thought it was going well?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Knowing Carolyn, I think she thought it was a shit show.
Yeah.
Being honest.
Danielle admits she didn't go for Boston Rob after Bob the Drag Queen because Boston Rob was too powerful, which I totally see that might be hard to get the votes against Boston Rob.
Also, with Bob the Drag Queen, I just think you can't be the loudest one in the room to win this game. We saw this year, who were our final 5? Britney, all of them were super quiet in the beginning. You have to play a very quiet game in the beginning and then come out at the very end.
But Bob the Drag Queen made a very important point, Bergie, is that he is always like that. He is always big. He always commands attention. And Carolyn had this point too, is that I'm always this way. You might think of this as strategy, and I do use it to my advantage, but this is how I am 24/7. So it's not necessarily an act, but it is hard because you almost have to go then against your natural instincts for future players of this game. If you are somebody as commanding as Bob the Drag Queen, you have to really pick your battles because sometimes it might be too much, even if that is your reality 24/7.
And I think you have to, because Carolyn, it works for, because she's not like commanding the room.
Well, there's an insecurity that comes with those quirks, it feels, or at least sometimes it reads that way.
Carolyn has a different like outgoing personality than Bob the Drag Queen. Like Bob the Drag Queen's personality is commanding the room. And from my experience on Traitors, the people that commanded the room found themselves out very quickly in my season. Like Larsa was trying to command the room. That got her banished. Marcus was kind of like commanding whatever room he was in, like just by the way he talked, like people like listened to him. That got him murdered. So like you don't want to be like a person that can command the room. Like that's so like if that is your personality, you need to have like a way to like calm yourself down or not command the room and just be. You have to be different for Traitors.
Is there anybody in your cast that like had a sweating problem? That like you noticed would like sweat during the round tables?
Well, I definitely was sweating. I'd be dripping every here and there. But like,
I mean, would they towel you down or anything?
No. But like, there's moments where my face is bright red and my hands like this, like it's covering my like, or like I was just like this on the round table, like holding myself up, and like they kept doing shots of me like this, and I was like this probably like 2 hours out of the round table, and then they picked the 5 minutes of like red in the face and like sweating.
So Carolyn talks about her quirky personality, and she's like, yeah, it's a strategy, but it still sometimes hurts when I don't feel like I'm listened to or I'm made fun of. And they ask, do you think Danielle respected her? And Carolyn kind of starts crying here and asks Danielle, did you respect her? And Danielle says, we had a communication issue. I know you're smart, Carolyn, and what you did was clever and being genuine. I do respect you, but we do listen to you. And Bob Harper backstage says, that's what we call a backstroke. So he did not believe Danielle right here in this moment. Gabby says that Carolyn's game is true to herself. You know, it's like, watching the show, I am like this as well. Women that are a little different, you're not taken as seriously. As a viewer with Carolyn, that's what I respected. And I love that Gabby said that because Gabby is put inside that same box. And that's why I said from the very beginning, just from knowing Gabby's like TikToks and stuff, I'm like, this girl is smart as hell. And you can use people not knowing, going, just writing you off, you can use that as an advantage. But I think it's a very fair point. Sandoval comes out, says he's very proud of himself. Also, Dolores points out to Carolyn that she is number 7 in the world on Cameo. We want to also let you know that Bergie, he's up there as well. So Bergie, you got to get a cameo from Bergie and Carolyn. And I'm also on Cameo as well. So
I was just going to say, Carolyn was on top 3 today when I was on my Cameo. I checked it. So she was top 3 on Cameo
dude,
today.
Do you know, that's got to be so stressful having to make all those cameos. Like, no joke, but you can make a full living on Cameo. Jax Taylor does it all the time.
Mm-hmm. Not with my price, but definitely during Christmas, it's a good.
Yeah,
it helps buy the Christmas gifts.
It
helps buy the Christmas gifts.
Same,
for sure.
Same. Boss and Rob comes. They're talking about. Rob says, "Yeah, I might have started the traitor against traitor because I heard this thing. It's like the stuff we already knew about Bob the Drag Queen, but I had to act on it." Bob the Drag Queen says, yeah, you started it, but everybody voted for me. All of you all voted for me. And Bob the Drag Queen, Andy says, you said Rob was threatened by you. If the car is driving, I want to grab the wheel. My goal was to be very dominating, not only in strategy, but that's how I am in real life as well. And Dylan says, you're so loud, you must be a traitor, I thought. And that's just... he says, that's who I am, Bob says. My goal was to be big, and I did that well. And I think he did do it well. I think Bob the Drag Queen is a star. And I don't know, this is like the same stuff about Boston Rob talking about everybody. Even Andy said, listen, and we said this in the very first episode of Recapping, if I see Boston Rob come into a game, I don't care if he's a faithful or a traitor. I'm getting him out immediately because you just don't want that kind of threat in there.
Yeah. Well, and at the same time too, if you watch Deal or No Deal Island, everybody but 2 people were trying to get him out, and he made it all the way to the freaking finale, and he does, like Dylan said, take his people far. So if you want,
Dylan also pointed out not only take his people far,
But
he
kill
will
him at
take
the
an
end.
innocent rookie and take them all the way to the end and kill him. And that's what he was going to do with Dylan. And I
Yep.
thought that was very astute. And Dylan said, I watched Deal or No Deal Island on the plane ride over. So all of a sudden I knew. And so this is a note for casting. Make sure you ask them if they watched Deal or No Deal Island. We need to not taint the jury pool. And if we know these people's games already, it's going to affect them.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's what it was. People say Dan was the worst traitor ever, but like people knew who Dan was. Like he won Big Brother once, but almost twice if the jury wasn't bitter. And the cards were so stacked against him that I think he played almost as impressive game as Boston Rob was, but he was trying to do the opposite, like not be too loud. Because at the same time, like I'm hearing everyone saying how threatening Dan is, but I'm like, he's just a dad. He's just
he's just a guy at the end of the day. But Dan, from my understanding, didn't he like pretty much like he was like it was his funeral and he got himself out of it on Big Brother, and that's why he's like this legendary player.
Yeah, so he pulled from my understanding, I'm not like a Big Brother expert. If anybody's watching, this is kind of my understanding of Dan. I haven't watched Big Brother 14. But in Big Brother 7, Dr. Will pulled this thing where he was probably going to go home. But he's like, I hate all of you guys. I don't even want to like try in the challenges anymore. Like, and then they kept Dr. Will around because he wasn't going to try in the challenges anymore. So Dan kind of pulled like the same card out of his ass in Big Brother 14. He was like, guys, it's over. I loved playing this game with all of you. And he like made a connection with every single person to convince them, like, because he was going to go home. Like they were all going to vote him out. And then he somehow convinced everybody to vote for the other person for him not to go out. Like he maneuvered his way around to like, I love all of you guys. I'm so sad to be going. Like we could have made it so far in this game. And, statistically you're like, well, not all of us can win, but somehow he convinced everybody that he wanted to go to the final with every single one of them.
Oh my God. So many great players of these games. Okay. So anyways, Danielle is talking about putting messy traitor in her Instagram bio or Twitter bio.
She already did.
She's like, what's that?
She already did.
Yeah. But she was saying, like, listen, I was chaotic and messy. But then she also tells Dolores, I was most worried about you, Dolores, because you were a correction officer in a former life and you're scary to me. And you looked at me and said, Danielle, who do you think is a traitor? And so I said, quite frankly, I think you are, to throw you off the scent. And you said you swear on your family. And so then I said, I swear on my grandkids, because I know that you're Italian and I know that family works. And my daddy's a preacher. So I did that. So I was always under the impression that she was the one that started swearing on the grandkids first. But here she says Dolores is the one that started swearing on the family.
I think in that conversation, but I still have heard stories from Traitors players that she was just going room to room saying, I swear on my grandkids. Like it was in that one conversation, I think it was just with the Dolores, but I don't want to speak for Danielle either, but from what I've heard, she went like room to room and told everybody she swears on her grandkids that she's a faithful.
So Britney comes out and we finally have this Britney Danielle moment and saying, it's complicated. If you were looking at this in a parallel universe, it would be perfect to kill me at the end. Like, you would take me and then kill me at the end. And Britney's like, in that one of the final round tables, Dolores, I looked at you and it didn't look like you were voting. You were going to vote for Danielle. And Dolores is like, no, you made that up. And it's like, it's on the TV show. And Bob the drag queen even stands up for Danielle in this moment. Bob the drag queen seems like a very big Danielle fan. And, I'm like, because we all saw that moment. It did look like that. So I do think, unless we're just being tricked in the edit.
Well, they showed that in the reunion clip too, didn't they? Like,
yes.
In the reunion? Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I side with Britney. She should have voted Danielle out.
Yeah. But even Dolores says, listen, at the end of the day, Danielle, you deserve to get booted out. Screw me once, shame on you. Screw me twice, shame on me. And Danielle says, we spent a lot of time together, Britney. And Britney says, I have met you 3 times. We have spent maybe 3 cumulative hours together, before reindeer games. You act like we were friends for years. And this was something when I interviewed her a couple of weeks ago that we talked about, because I am not a Big Brother viewer. And I was like, in my head, I thought they had this long-standing, like, sisterhood of the traveling pants relationship where they were each other's soul sisters. And that was not the case at all. And Britney says, listen, I My fear is the water is even muddier now. I was so happy when we cleared the air. What was it all ever for? Will this ever happen again? No, Britney is saying this. Will this ever happen again? And Danielle says, no, this will never happen again. I can't trust her. So kind of says, I will never be in this situation with you again. I will never trust you again. But by the way, I will say later that night, this is why I thought maybe they went to the end and won it, is that I saw them all go out for a group dinner and Britney and Danielle were sitting right across from each other smiling.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just because, like, when you play Uno with someone, you're very upset when you get the draw 4 card or whatever, and you get over it later on that night or whatever.
I'm glad
you're just not playing Uno anymore. You're just not playing Uno anymore. You don't have like 20 cards in your hand. When you have 20 cards in your hand, you're like a little pissed off. And then once the cards are gone, you're like, okay.
I got to play Uno with you. Anyways, we have we already confirmed this on this show, actually, but Andy asked about the online chatter that Danielle told Britney that she was a traitor, and they said there's no way that's possible. We signed the NDAs. We take it very seriously. And then the rest of it, you guys, like Dorinda was upset at Bob the drag queen for coming after her, and Bob's like, I'm sorry, I don't know you. It's not offensive to you. Like, I'm sorry, I just don't know. And Dorinda seemed offended by that. But there was not really, there was funny moments like Ciara tells Boston Rob that he used to be hot. Like, wow, I saw a picture of you back in the day. You used to be real hot. And I thought it was good, but I didn't think there was any other moments that truly stood out at that reunion.
No, I think you hit every single point. Like, to me, like, if I ever go back to watch Traitors season 3, which I will, I'll definitely, like, my favorite episode this season was definitely episode 4, like the downfall of Bob the drag queen. Incredible episode. Like, if I'm going back to watch season 3 this year, or if I'm like, oh, I just want to watch Traitors tonight, I'm watching that one episode. Season 2 would probably be like episode 5 through 5 and 6, like the downfall, like the shield play, and then Dan getting out. Like, that's pretty cool. And then seeing him backstab Phaedra. Season 1, I think the final episode of season 1 is like the outstanding episode of that one.
For me, the only episode I will ever watch again is the episode where they kick you out, and I'm going to watch it on a loop.
Just the first 8 minutes. Just the first 8 minutes. That's all you want to see.
Listen, we have come to the end of this, and I'm so sad because I truly look forward to this every week. And I think the good news we can say that I think me and Bergie are talking about continuing to work together, and there might be a show in our future, in the near future. But I also want to remind people that Bergie is a real person. He's got an anatomy test coming up. He's going to school. He's bettering his life. He's getting an education. So when reality shows come calling, he does not need to depend on a measly $50,000 prize pot. But he is on Cameo. He is also going to be at the Cruise of Deception in April with some of your favorite players of the Traitors. You will get to play on his team. You can play on somebody else's team. I think there's a $50,000 prize pot, which is pretty much the actual prize pot of the Traitors. It's on the sea. Yeah, I know. There's like, you could literally potentially win more here than you would on the Traitors. But how else do we support you, Bergie? And by the way, just personally, thank you. Thank you for surprising me with Carolyn. Just thank you. I think you are genuinely a good person, and I just really enjoy talking to you, man.
Well, thank you, Ryan. Because like, I did a lot of podcasts last year, and you're like, I did like a 20-minute interview with you, and you're like the one podcast that like really stood out. And like, then I saw you post, then I followed you on Instagram. Then like 3 months later, I saw you like interview Hannah Smith from Love Island season 6. It's like, no way you're doing this. And then we did like that one episode. I was like, well, you're like, why are you doing recaps of Love Island? And then we've done now a whole season of Love Island, a whole season of Traitors, and I've absolutely loved it. But to support me, I don't know what else I'm going to be doing right now because I'm a busy college student right now. So, but I have a YouTube channel that is Bergielicious35. I haven't posted on it.
I was like, do you give me the info so we can put it in the show notes?
I haven't posted on that one in over a year, but I would like to make it active. And I'm like, I'm going to make a YouTube channel, or I'm going to make a YouTube video, and then I never get around to it because school takes over. But eventually I might just start like uploading videos, but like that might be 2 years out. So you could subscribe to that.
2 years.
Follow me on Instagram.
Subscribe now, but don't wait for 2 years for the content. And
wait for 2 years for the content. And then because I do want to make YouTube videos. It's just like I don't have the time right now. And then Instagram, Bergielicious35, and then TikTok, Bergielicious35.
And also his wonderful girlfriend. We also want to follow her as well. She is amazing. She came in one episode this season, and I hope to talk to her again. She was so funny, so delightful, and we'll put her information as well. And the only thing I will say, the only warning, and this is up to you, is do you know that rapper Bad Baby?
I don't listen to hip hop.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Well, I mean, not good. Hip hop's amazing. But Bad Baby, she started off on Dr. Phil. She was the one that said, "Catch me outside."
How about that?
She started an OnlyFans, Bergie, and she made $75 million off her OnlyFans.
And well,
so I'm just saying, I'm not saying do an OnlyFans, but I'm not saying not to do an OnlyFans, but like it make like a tasteful OnlyFans. I don't know. I'm just trying to give you ideas to make money.
I've been not reached out by OnlyFans, but like something similar to that, and I was like, yeah, that is not my cup of tea. I can't do that. And then there was another one. What was it? I had a collab for like a vibrator or something. I was like, I cannot do this. I'm sorry. This is out of my wheelhouse. They were offering me a lot of money. And I'm like, oh, I just got a car accident. Do I do this collab? And I was like, I can't.
I remember one of my first ads on the podcast, like I think it was before I had a girlfriend, and it was from like that, and I was like, this is so weird talking about like a vibrator, and I'm like, who am I going to give it to? My mom? Like, like I don't even know what but anyways, regardless, we'll put all of Bergie's information up there, and who knows, you guys, let us know in the comments, what show would you like us to cover if you wanted us to cover a show again, because there's a little show called Survivor out there. There's also the Traitors UK Season 3 that is on Peacock now. I don't know. Give us what you think we should do next, but who knows, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would gladly come back and do like a weekly episode recap of whatever show we're currently watching. So
get ready, folks. This has been a great experience, and thank you to all of you for showing up every week. I hope that you got a little laughter, and I hope that it just kind of fueled your excitement of the game like we have excitement for this game. So thank you for joining us, you guys. Have a great day.
All right.